This toxic love. Kama hujagombezana na mpenzi wako unajua uko sawa. Ukiona ametulia unajua it's suspicious. Huyu ni kama anachiti, huyu ni kama anafanya kitu, huyu sijui ako wapi, sijui ako na nani.
Welcome to the Chains and Choices podcast, breaking free from cycles and embracing new possibilities.
Welcome to the Chains and Choices podcast, Wangina, where we break cycles and embrace new possibilities. This is a space for you to slow down, to breathe, to reflect, and to make wise choices that can transform your life. Every week, we sit together, talk openly, and make a choice of choosing differently, even when fear tells us to stay the same. And guys, today we are diving into the power of making different choices to break toxic patterns. Not the loud, dramatic way you see online, not the overnight miracle. I'm talking about the slow, intentional shift that feels uncomfortable at first but sets you free over time. You know, most of the things holding us back today were once the very things that helped us survive. Let that sink in. Unasikia? Most of the things holding us back today were once the very things that made us survive, or rather helped us survive. Okay, from the way you love, the way you react, the way you protect yourself, the way you stay silent, the way you over explain, the way you tolerate too much. I mean, those are the patterns, the same pattern which were built when you are trying to stay safe, when you are trying to feel safe, when you are trying to feel chosen, when you are trying to feel enough. Okay? Have you ever stopped to think about that? Hebu niambie, ushaifikiria hayo? Well, I'm here to explore this topic deep with you guys. That maybe all those ways of surviving, all those habits and reaction you've been criticizing yourself from were once necessary. Huh? But survival patterns don't expire on their own. If you don't question them, they follow you in every season of your life. And that, my friend, is where the chains begin. And to be honest with you guys, I had to face my patterns one by one and deal with them. In the process, I learned something crucial, that toxic patterns don't always look ugly or dramatic. Sometimes they look mature, responsible, or even loving, but underneath, they keep you small, tired, and disconnected from yourself. That is one thing I can tell you for sure. Let me tell you guys, toxic patterns can look like overgiving, staying silent to avoid conflict, tolerating more than you should, self-sabotaging when good things come. They can also look like leaning into familiar pain because it feels normal. They can also look like waiting forever to choose yourself. Have you ever felt that way? Be real. Just be real with me. Ushaikaa ukapata unavumilia kitu haikufurahishi, but unavumilia sababu ushaizoea. You're just there because it feels normal, but you know deep down you're hurting. You're in a certain relationship just because you're in the fear. You are living in the fear of starting over again, starting from scratch. You are in that toxic environment, that toxic job environment, simply because you don't know where to start. Unajiuliza, nikiacha hii kazi nitaenda wapi? Nikiacha hii kazi nitatoa pesa ya rent wapi? Nitatoa pesa ya kulipa bills wapi? Ama nitaacha hii kazi niende nikafanye kazi wapi? Nipate ingine wapi? You are tolerating more than you should. You are over explaining yourself. That, especially guys, especially the over explaining part. You know, that is something I have struggled with for the longest. You find myself, let's just give a normal example. A friend calls and asks me, send me 100 bob. And I know very well I don't have the 100 bob. And I just feel like nikimwambia sina hata niamini. So I go to my M-Pesa, I screenshot, I send to them, and I'm like, unaona sina pesa. That is definitely over explaining. And that is something I have dealt with. I realize it's a pattern because, as I mentioned in the second episode, growing up, I was never given the opportunity, the space to explain myself. So now I always feel that urge to explain myself. Juu najua nikikwambia like a no without an explanation utaniamini, nikikwambia a no without an explanation unadhani nakudanganya. I have always felt the need to over explain myself so that someone can really and truly understand and know that I'm honest, I'm being honest with them. But that is a toxic pattern, and I overcame. And that's why I'm here talking to you about it, so that you can self examine yourself and know what toxic habits, or rather what toxic patterns you are going to outdo this year. Remember, it's a new year, new resolutions, and we also want to be new and be better for ourselves and show up for ourselves than we ever did. Ah, you know, but survival patterns don't expire on their own. That is one thing for sure. If you don't question them, trust me, they follow you in each and every single season of your life. And that is a change. You have to sit down, ask yourself, am I really happy with what is going on in my life? Am I really happy with this same emotion which keeps coming up in my life? No matter how I change people, I interact with different people, I change my environment, a different season, but the same emotion, emotional feeling. That that feeling of feeling you're not enough. Maybe you're not with the right people. Maybe you're shy. Maybe you're this and that. Name them, guys. And as I have mentioned, toxic patterns don't always look ugly or dramatic. Sometimes they look mature, responsible, even loving, because that is exactly what you're used to. It's normal to you. It's your survival tactic. Like unajua hii kitu inifurahishi, si mzuri, lakini juu umeizoea. Unaona, maybe is the most wise decision you've ever made in your life. But again, when you're alone, you're questioning it. When you sit down and talk to yourself, you're not comfortable about the whatever decision you make. Uh and I've said toxic patterns can look like overgiving, stay silent to avoid conflict. That is me. That was me way back in 2019, 2021. In 2022, I met a beast. I never knew I can be a beast. Like right now, mess with me, I'm like, you did this and this. I don't want to make up. It's okay because from the very start, you knew what exactly you are doing. So let me be, I let you be. You understand? Another thing is tolerating more than you should. Move out of that toxic relationship. Move out of that toxic job environment. Move out of that toxic friendship. Choose better. This is a safe space for you. And they can also look like leaning into familiar pain because it feels normal. Exactly what I've said. Now I want to share with you a personal journey with 6 examples. Real moments where I had to choose differently, where I had to question my patterns, where I slowly began to break the chains. And I want you to ask yourself, have you been there too? Listen, overgiving. These are my personal experiences. Remember, this is a space for you to slow down, to breathe, to reflect, and to choose wisely. Make wise choices that will help transform your life. So, my pattern number one, overgiving. You know, these are just basic things, but they are really draining. I gave my time, my energy, my patience, even when I was completely drained. And this is not once, twice, a couple of times. You find me being around that person. I know I am not comfortable, I'm mentally drained, I don't have the energy, I don't feel the vibe, but just because I want to make them happy, I stayed. And when I got home, I was like, I shouldn't have been there. I would have walked away. I would have gave an excuse and left. But I didn't know it was a pattern until I found myself questioning it more than a million times, I told myself it was love. Trust me, for sure. But deep down, it was fear. The fear that if I stopped, I wouldn't be needed. I wouldn't be valued. One day, I asked myself, am I giving from love or from fear? And trust me, that question changed how I showed up. Because, trust me, I was only showing up because of fear. Fearing they would cut me off, fearing I would hurt their emotions, fearing I would hurt their feelings, fearing that they will lose me, I will lose them. I'm even getting emotional because this is a personal story. And there's a reason as to why I simplified everything and wrote it as a script in my phone, because it was such an heavy search, heavy self search. Because I was like, I want to have a one-in-one and honest conversation with my people, where I'm telling a story, not just storytelling. I'm telling a story from a personal point of view. Really, Esther, really, Ngina, I was only showing up for them from a point of fear, the fear of losing them, the fear of feeling like I'm hurting their feelings, and so on. And I have a question for you. What if your love didn't come with exhaustion? Have you ever asked yourself, are you showing up for that friend from a point of love or from a point of fear? Have you ever asked yourself, are you in that relationship from a point of love or from a point of fear? Let me know down there in the chat. Let's talk, guys. Another pattern is staying where I was tolerated instead of chosen. Let me be honest with you. I stayed in a relationship where I was only tolerated, not chosen. Because tell me why. From the beginning of this relationship, it was all lovey dovey, love, the best thing. Like, this person was the best person I've ever met. Then they expected me not to grow, not to choose myself. Like, I realized I was showing up more for them because I was in fear of losing them. And they realized this girl loves me so much. So I can put her under any situation. I can put her in any situation because I know for sure she loves me. And then I learned this. I realized this as time went by, days went by. And then I was like, Gina, you have to show up for yourself and choose better and choose yourself, choose your time and choose your life, who you give your energy to. And then I was like, you know what? I don't have to see them 5 days in a week. Let me just be available for one day when I want to, not when it's convenient for them. And then they realized this girl has been changing. She has been responding differently. And then they were like, I see. I don't want to mention the exact point, but what this person said, I'm only sympathizing with you. I'm not with you simply because I love you. Yeah, I love you. I know I do, but not as I did before. Simply because you've changed. You're so selfish with your time. You're so selfish with your love. You're just so selfish. And I realized the moment I took a step, the moment I questioned a certain pattern, this other person realized, and then they were like, I'm sympathizing with you. I'm just tolerating you just because you love me, not because I love you the same way I did. And you know what? That hurt. And I was like, that's fine. That is okay. If my growth is making you feel intimidated, then walk with it, shine with it, because for sure, from now on, I'm choosing myself, choosing my time, and being selfish with my time, my energy, my love, and everything. And that was the end of it all. Because honestly, I didn't have to stay in a toxic place just because they want me to be there, just because it's the only person I know, just because it's the only place I feel safe. I was like, no, you know what? Let me just step aside. Let you do you, and I choose myself. And that was the end of that story. How about you? Are you staying in a toxic place just because you are tolerated and not chosen? Ask yourself. Let me know down there in the comments. Another example, another personal um pattern was self-sabotage. Let me just read whatever I wrote. Whenever something good came into my life, I would overthink, question, and pull away. Because for one, I'm this kind of what is it called? Paranoid. I'm very paranoid. I didn't trust happiness. Breaking that pattern meant letting job exist without preparing for pain. I hate to tell myself, what if I trusted good things to stay? Have you ever doubted the good in your life only to push it away? Like, let me just give a good example. Maybe you were raised in a family where love was conditional. And then that was back then in your childhood. And right now in your adulthood, you meet someone who is genuinely loving and intentional with you. And then you all of a sudden you're overthinking and feeling this is a trap. Like they're after something. You're like, just show me what you want. Be quick now. Show me what you want. Have you ever been in such situation? Or maybe you had a friendship, a good relationship, then it ended up in so bad terms. And then right now in your life, when you meet someone genuine who is ready to be your friend, a supportive, genuine, intentional friend, you're like, you're just here to repeat the same pattern. You just let good things drift away simply because you're stuck in fear, stuck in trauma. You're trauma bonded to something which happened to you earlier in your life, in your childhood, or maybe a week ago. You're just in fear. You're stuck in fear. You're sabotaging yourself, believing that you don't deserve good things, believing that you don't deserve good people, intentional people. I know, I know I am not alone. I know I was never alone. I know I'll not be going to be alone. I know I have my viewers who have been in the same situation. Like, uko na rafiki mzuri lakini umwamini. Unaona tu mtu amekuja tu kwa maisha yako kukukosea. Amekuja tu kwa maisha yako kukurudishia uchungu ushaisikia. You understand? And honestly, there's a reason I normally say I'm not a friends person, because I don't want to cry, but because um I had people I was genuine with, people I built them from scratch, people I gave them the advice that I needed the most, people I told hanging there when I needed to hear that word the most, people I told don't worry, it's gonna be okay, people I gave my last call when I needed much more than them. But what did they say to me later? I didn't ask for it. I hate talking about my past relationship with people, because whenever you speak, you give power. But this time, I'm speaking and taking my power back. And I'm doing this on a podcast because that thing hurt me so bad. I had this friend. She always called me her best friend. I was like, you can call me your best friend, but trust me, I'll be here for you. I'll be here for you. And trust me, I was 100%. I could wake up in the middle of the night and find a very long, appreciative paragraph. And then when I asked them in person, so yesterday you told me this, you were like, ilikuwa nimekosa usingizi, nikaona tu nikuandikie. So, is there anything genuine? No, definitely no. So, fast forward, long story short, tukakuja tukakosana. Hatukukosana kwa ubaya. I was like, I think our time together is over. I don't want you to walk out of my life. I want you to run. And she was like, why? I don't want to do this. You're hurting me. I was like, no, I'm not doing it in a bad way. And trust me, the last day, I invited her over and we had a praise and worship like for almost 4 hours. We're just praying, singing, and all that. We had a fine dinner. We started praying, singing along to gospel music. And I was like, our time is over. Guess what? She went out here and tarnished my name. Like, I got new people, I got subscribers, I got new people approaching me from whatever they have been told by that same person. So I'm just in school and someone is telling, oh, so and so told me this and this. So you don't look like that kind of a person. I wonder why she told me that. And then I'm like, oh wow, that's what she told you. I was like, I'm not going to confront her to ask her anything. I'll just let her be. And I'm like, whenever my name is mentioned, let blessings overflow in my life. I gained subscribers, I got new people, friendly people, genuine people, yani from that same story. But when you wanaambia ubaya yangu, wanakuja wanani approach, wanani ukai hivi, mbona akuongele. And then there's one day I got so mad and I was like, you were told this about me. Next time, tell them the part where I was good to them, because I don't understand. Leo niko mbaya, kesho niko mbaya, but they still chose to stay. Why did they choose to stay while all along I was hurting them? Why did they choose to stay while all along I was the bad person? I was the villain in their story. Like, do your math, use your common sense. I mean, you got it. Like, yeah, you got it. I don't know whether we have people who are going through the same, or maybe I've gone through the same. If you have or still is, this is your space, this is your moment. Let's talk. I also have another example: silence. For sure, I stayed silent to avoid drama, confrontation, conflict, rejection, or even being misunderstood, because every time you confront something, there's always two sides of it. You might say, I'm sorry, but the other person feels like you're shouting, or your sorry is not genuine. So you're like, let me just keep quiet for the sake of my own sanity. I don't have to necessarily question everything. So let me choose to be silent. And I thought it was mature. But silence was costing me my truth. Every time you hold yourself back and say you're not going to confront something, just know you're costing yourself your truth. You don't have to necessarily explain yourself, confront every situation, but sometimes please do it. Please do it for the sake of your own sanity. Also, you need to set boundaries. And also, some people always need to be silenced, because if you keep quiet, they think you're the fool. If you keep quiet, they term you a fool. They call you for a fool. Like, yeah, amenyamaza juu aniwezi, amenyamaza juu ni mjinga. We Kenyans, and honestly, the first time I spoke honestly, I trembled, but I felt free. That moment you're questioning something, you're crying, you're shaking, but you're trying to put your point out there. You're like, no, it was not like this. You're misunderstanding. You need to hear my side of the story. You need to understand this. But at the end of it, it comes with some relief. You're like, oh, thank you. I'm glad I did this. And you know what? Expressing yourself doesn't make you difficult, it makes you whole. Let me know. Have you ever stayed silent when your voice was begging to be heard? In some situation, let's be honest, in some situation, unaweza kuwa kwa situation fulani, unataka kunyamaza, but a voice inside you is screaming out loud. Speak, confront this, say this, do this. I know I'm not relate. Let me know. And another personal pattern I had to deal with was uh, attachment to familiar pain. You know, living in an environment where chaos feels normal, calm feels suspicious, peace feels uncomfortable, because yani mnavurugana tu kila saa, mnateteshana, hiyo ni sawa. This toxic love. Kama hujagombezana na mpenzi wako, unajua uko sawa. Ukiona ametulia, unajua it's suspicious. Huyu ni kama anachiti, huyu ni kama anafanya kitu, huyu sijui ako wapi, sijui ako na nani. I've ever been there. Uko tu kwa mahusiano, unajua tu you are loyal. You're unsure about the other person. Maybe you are sure about the other person. But akinyamaza sana, unaona kuna kitu anafanya. Ananikosea. Anafanya nini? Ako wapi na nani? I know I know you can't lie about that. I mean, I had to learn that peace isn't empty, it's spacious, it's a healing, breathing room. And when I finally sat with calm instead of running toward chaos, I began to notice how much of my life had been held hostage by tension. Can you imagine allowing peace to feel normal? Imagine that. Hmm? Sit with me and imagine that. And I mean, the last um example of a personal pattern I get to deal with it was waiting to feel ready. Okay, this is my example number six. I've given five, and this is the last one. Waiting to feel ready. And this is something I have struggled with for the longest. I waited for confidence. I waited for clarity. I waited for permission. I don't know from who. But guys, it's something I always tell the people who wanna start their YouTube channel. I knew I wanted to be a content creator from a long, long time, a while ago, 2019. But I felt my content is not enough. The kind of a phone I was using by that time, I felt it was not enough. I waited for the moment I could afford an iPhone. I waited for the moment I could afford a tripod, an expensive tripod, expensive wig, expensive designer clothes, And that is something which is always haunting me till today. I feel like if I had started earlier, I would have learned along the way. Why did I have to start so late? Because I was waiting for clarity, for confidence. Like I was being patient for nothing. Because trust you me, as I record today, I know I still make mistakes. I know I still make mistakes. I know I'm not the fluent person. I'm not the eloquent person on YouTube. I am not the smartest. I'm not the bravest. Like I know I'm still on the way. I'm still learning day by day. I'm still on the move. And I normally tell myself anytime I wake up and feel the urge to do something, even if I'm not ready, it doesn't matter. I'll just go direct and do it. Alone, afraid, scared, with insufficient tools and everything, lack of confidence and everything. I'll just go on and do my stuff. Cause tell me, why did I have to wait so long? Hmm? Do you understand? And none of it came. Change began the moment I acted while afraid. The moment I took that phone and placed it on top of a Vaseline container, I recorded my first video. I got views, I got comments, I got engagement. Like I waited for so many things which never came. So start now. Do it afraid. Do it alone. Okay? Choosing myself while scared felt terrifying, for sure. But it was the moment the chains began to loosen. And I would want to ask you, what choice have you been waiting to make? Could you make it today, please? Even when afraid, just do it. Gina is here to encourage you. Do it afraid. Do it alone. Do it. Okay? It doesn't matter how people will see you, but trust me, the moment you tell yourself, I am doing it, you're breaking a chain. You are making a wise choice of trusting yourself, of doing it afraid, of doing it with the little capability you have as you learn along the way. And guys, one thing you have to know is that breaking patterns doesn't always happen at once. It happens in moments. Moments where you pause instead of reacting, where you choose rest instead of proving, where you walk away instead of explaining, where you say no without guilt, where you choose yourself despite of fear. Every different choice weakens a chain. The thing is, you're not broken, you're not adapted, you survived, and now you get to choose differently. Guys, that was my personal story about um, choosing differently and breaking toxic patterns. It wasn't an easy thing. It didn't happen overnight. I have always told myself that I'm a piece of work in progress because every day I unlearn, I relearn. Every day I learn and learn and relearn. Like, yeah, maybe yesterday I believed in this. Today I have surpassed that. Today I am past that. It's not my thing. I don't want to associate myself with it. I don't want to do that because I am a piece of art in progress. I am not where I want to be. I am not the woman I want to be. I am still in progress. And guys, we've come to the end of our today's section. Thank you so much for sitting with me today. Thank you for being brave to reflect and to hear yourself in this conversation for sure. I appreciate you for that. This is the Chains and Choices podcast by Ngina, where we break cycles and embrace new possibilities. And I have to mention that healing is not loud, it's quiet, it's hidden, it's yours, and it's not linear. And if this conversation reached you, carry it gently, journal it, share it, reflect on it, and let it sit in your heart. The choice that changes everything is often the quietest one. Until next time, be gentle with yourself and remember you are worthy of every possibility. See you guys. That is the end of our third episode. See you in the fourth one.